It's time for your Low Country real estate market update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Thanks for joining me this morning as we talk all things real estate on this program. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm one of the top agents here in the area, and I like to take my experiences in selling hundreds of homes and share that with you so that if you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, you've got some good market data to go off of. We talk a lot about what's going on in the market this day and age, so that you can make some informed decisions. So that's what this program is all about. If at any point in time you're considering buying, selling, or investing in real estate and you want to hire a real estate agent, I'd love the opportunity to earn your business. I can be reached at 843-345-1273, or you can go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, and on that website you can take a look at everything I have for sale, take a look at everything I've sold, read some testimonials from past clients, search the MLS, and if you're thinking about selling your house, click on the Sell Your Home tab. You can learn more about what I do to market my properties for sale, and you can also learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee, which very simply states that I will sell your house in 59 days or less, or I'll sell it for half my commission. And that's a very real offer. So listingsincharleston.com is the website for that. So I'm in the studio this morning, and I am joined by Andrew Muller of Mappus Insurance. It's been a little while since we've had you on the program. Good morning.
Good morning, Brian. Thanks for having me.
How's business so far?
Business is going great. We are so busy with so many people buying homes here. It's unbelievable. Yeah, me too. It's just been an incredible start to the year. First quarter has really gotten off to a great start, and it doesn't seem like we really missed that much of a beat over the holidays. I mean, at least for me, and I'm sure for you as well, as running that company, Mappus Insurance. Correct. I mean, the way that we are busy right now, it's going to be unbelievable to see what it's going to be like in May and June.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we're live in the studio this morning, and we want to take your calls. So if you have any insurance-related questions, I'm going to ask him some myself. But the phone number here, 843-556-1250, 843-556-1250. Feel free to call into the studio, ask any insurance-related question you'd like. If you have a real estate question, I'll do my best to answer that. But the number here, 843-556-1250. So, Andrew, we've had a lot of rain over the past few months this year. And I have a question for you. I'm dealing with a lot of issues right now where we have homes that are under contract. They're in the process of being sold. And because of the incredible amount of rain we've had, we have water that has seeped into crawl spaces. We have yards that are flooded. Some of it has caused damage to the house. And so I guess my question for you is, when we have massive amounts of rain like this, is that something that's covered under flood insurance, or is that just regular home insurance? Is that even insurance-related claim?
That's a great question. That falls into a gray area.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. That's insurance people have a great way of having things fall into the gray area. But in order for it to be covered or considered for coverage under a flood policy, it's got to be a large area. I believe the definition is of 2 acres of more in order for it to be considered a flood.
Okay.
Flood policy coverage, or cover 2 properties or more. So if somebody's having water build up around their foundation and it's causing damage to the foundation or underneath the house, I don't believe that's going to trigger coverage under a flood policy.
Okay.
So I would recommend speaking with your agent on the homeowner's policy to find coverage there.
Okay, interesting. And I guess that's all going to just be based on the deductible that they have and the coverage that they have, so on and so forth.
Correct.
Interesting. Well, let me switch gears for a second, and we're talking with Andrew Muller of Mappus Insurance Agency. For those people that are considering buying or selling a home this year, what do they need to know about flood insurance? I've had several questions recently, more than normal, about flood insurance and the impact on their property as it relates to the Biggert Waters Reform Act of 2012 and just all that mess that we kind of dealt with in 2013 and 2014. What do people need to know this year about buying or selling a house that relates to flood insurance?
Sure. Well, there are some more changes coming and they begin April 1st. But in general, what people need to know about, number one, what flood zone is the property in? Is it in an A zone? Is it in a V zone? Or is it in an X zone? If a property's in an X zone, they won't be required by a lender to carry flood insurance. That doesn't mean they shouldn't, but they're just not going to be required. But if they're in an A or a V zone, they will be required. I have a lot of people often, they're very interested in homes that are in V zones, and that's the highest rated flood zone, so the highest rated, obviously the premium is going to be higher. And they'll go through the process of putting an offer in on a house and not even realizing that the flood insurance is going to be around $3,000 or $4,000 a year just for that, and then they want to walk away from it because the flood insurance. So understand what flood zone you're in. Always ask for the elevation certificate. That is what we use to rate a flood policy. If there is no elevation certificate, it's really tough to say what the flood premium will be for that specific property because it will change on every property. If you're paying $500 for your flood insurance, that doesn't mean your neighbor's paying the same. They could be paying $1,000 based off of their elevation certificate. So that's extremely important.
And in layman's terms, what is an elevation certificate?
Sure. So it defines where the foundation of the house lies compared to what's called the base flood elevation. And so every community has established where the foundation, how high a house needs to be built based on the flood zone. Okay. And so it determines that. If the house is on a crawl space, it determines you have to follow certain rules if it's a slab or a crawl space or an elevated property. But if it's on a crawl space, it will let you know the venting underneath in the crawl space, how much venting there is. And so without getting too deep into it, that's in general what it covers, and it helps us rate the policy.
You mentioned something that I want to touch on for a second. We're talking with Andrew Muller of Mappus Insurance. If you have any questions for us, we are live in the studio. We'd love to take your calls. 843-556-1250 is the number here in the studio. But you mentioned people making offers on property and then finding out after the fact that they have insurance that's astronomical, way more than they had planned for. And so just a note on that, as a real estate agent, it's my job to help this buyer investigate the property and all facets of it, insurance being one of them, especially if it's in a flood zone. So I like to get that information up front before we make an offer. I would prefer that it not be a contingency to the contract because that's just going to weaken our position. Let's say if we were in a multiple offer situation. As someone that represents sellers primarily, and I have buyer agents that represents buyers, when I see contracts that have a long list of contingencies in it for, buyer satisfaction of flood insurance and buyer satisfaction of utility bills or simple stuff like that, that should be information that agents are providing their buyer clients before they decide to buy a house so that they can make an informed decision. I mean, at the end of the day, they need to know how much money they're going to be paying on a monthly basis to own that house. And I would think if you're a buyer, you would want to know the answer to that question before you decided to buy something.
Correct. It amazes me, too, at how many people have an accepted offer on a property, and they haven't even thought about what the insurance costs are going to be. And then, like I mentioned, a lot of times they back out or they're trying to figure out how they're going to pay for it.
Right. And you made another good point in that sometimes people don't have elevation certificates. Sometimes they don't have the information that, as a buyer, we would need to make an informed decision. So then at that point in time, yes, it does make sense to add a contingency to the contract to protect yourself, but don't just not protect yourself. I mean, you got to have that information. It's incredibly important. So again, we're talking with Andrew Muller of Mappus Insurance. Give us a call, 843-556-1250 here in the studio.
Sure. I got one additional thing for people. If somebody's looking at selling a property, make sure you have that elevation certificate available. If you cannot find one, contact the local community building code department for either the county or the city. They potentially would have it on file. But if you don't have one, they don't have it on file, you might have to go and purchase a new elevation certificate. I recommend having it because every single buyer should be asking for it. Mm-hmm. And so you should just go ahead and get it. So that's one less hurdle for you to sell your house.
Right. Absolutely. let me ask you something. What are some things that people can do to make their home insurance more affordable? Oh, and you know what? That reminds me of something. This I'm going to tell you on air, but I'm going to tell you while I'm thinking about it, since you're my insurance agent. I just put on a new roof, and I just put in all new windows at my house, Mount Pleasant hurricane, impact resistant Simonton windows. That's going to help my insurance on an annual basis, correct?
Absolutely, it will. Every company is going to be different in their underwriting philosophies and what discounts they give, but certainly the windows will. That type of window will absolutely help get you some discounts.
Okay. What are some other things that people can do to save money on home insurance rather than just increasing their deductible for a lower premium?
Certainly. Well, certainly increasing the deductibles are going to help. I mean,
right.
That's one thing. You need to take another look at the replacement cost value of the home, making sure it's accurate. Oftentimes, insurance companies build in an inflation guard. So every year they'll bump it up 3%, 4%, 5%. Well, if you haven't looked at it in a few years, it could be your replacement cost could be a little higher than what it actually needs to be.
Okay.
So that is one way. A lot of insurance companies will include a lot of additional coverages, some of which you might not want or need. For instance, there's one for data compromise or...
Oh, interesting. What about personal property? I mean, sometimes that fluctuates pretty high, doesn't it?
It does. Some companies will allow you to alter the personal properties based on the replacement cost of the house. So they always default to 50% of the replacement cost of the house for personal property. But others might go up to 75%. You might be able to go down to 25%. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have a lot of things, well, then you don't need 75% of the dwelling value for personal property. So to put it in context, if you have a $500,000 replacement cost home, 50% is $250,000 of contents.
Right.
You might not have that many.
Okay.
And so you might want to back it down to 25% or whatever is comfortable for you.
Interesting.
And that can help reduce the rate.
Okay. Very cool. Andrew, thank you so much for answering some of those questions. You're going to stick around for a little while because I think we have a few more things to talk about. And thank you for tuning in. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. When we come back, we're going to talk about flipping houses. We had an interesting article come out about flipping properties. I want to talk with you about that. So stick around. Contact us here in the studio, 843-556-1250 with all your questions and comments. We'll be right back.
Hear the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show every Saturday morning at 8 on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. WTMA. Now, the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues on Charleston's Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston. Thank you so much for joining me this morning as we talk about all things real estate here on the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. I'm your host, Brian Beatty, and we've been talking with Andrew Muller of Mappus Insurance Agency this morning about just some different insurance-related questions, and I think he did a good job of answering a lot of that. If you still have questions, he's here in the studio. If you have questions for me, I'm in the studio. The number to call is 843-556-1250. Don't be bashful. We're here to help. And hope we can do so. If you'd like to reach out to me personally, you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, I'd like for you to go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, and you can take a look at everything I have for sale, everything I've sold, read some testimonials from past clients, search the MLS, and, of course, if you're thinking about selling your house, which we're going to talk about here in just a few minutes, click on the Sell Your Home tab. You can learn more about what I do to market my properties for sale, and you can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee at 4.5% commission. Essentially, I will sell your home in 59 days or less, or I'll sell it for half my commission. So listingsincharleston.com is the website to go to, and the number here in the studio is 843-556-1250. So I wanted to switch gears and talk about something else this morning that we don't talk about too often on this program. It's something that I've helped a lot of people do. It's something that I do personally, and that's flipping houses. And flipping houses, of course, were popular several years ago. They're kind of losing their steam. And there was an article that came out that I talked about with the morning talk show host throughout the week. about there only being about 250 or so flips last year in 2014 in Charleston, and that number reducing drastically over the past few years. And so the question is why? Why are there less homes to flip? Why is that number so low? So I wanted to provide some insight into that. And first, let me just say that I work with a lot of investors. I'm an investor myself, in addition to helping people buy and sell real estate. And it's really hard to find the really good deals right now. What you have to understand is that most people that invest in real estate, they're going to truly be a professional about flipping a house. They're going to buy it for cash so they can buy it for the lowest price possible. They have their crews already set up. They have their subcontractors in line, or they have a general contractor with subcontractors that can do everything they need to have done to the house. They're going to do it in as quick amount of time as possible, because time is money. They're going to hire a real estate agent that knows what they're doing to help them sell the house, and they are going to do what we call turn and burn. They're going to try and do as many as they can. And you know why? Because the amount of money that you make per flip now in today's market is less than what it was, let's say, in 2011. In 2011, you could have purchased a home for significantly less than you can now in many areas. And as those areas start to, get better, as prices start to go up, as sales start to elevate, they're in a perfect position to sell it, make the money, and then move on to the next one. So for the people that are thinking about investing in real estate and flipping houses, they're taking a big gamble. It has to be worth it to them to take all that cash, invest all that time, and then at the end of the day, once they've paid for all the improvements and they've waited to find a buyer and they have to pay for the closing costs and commission associated with selling the property, there better be a pretty fat check at the end of that process. Otherwise, it's a very high risk for a very low reward. And flipping properties is not an easy task. You can lose a lot of money by flipping properties, and there are a lot of people that kind of got into the business of flipping properties. Think back to when our market was doing well right before it crashed. Think about the amount of people that became investors because the market was doing so well. They didn't take the time to educate themselves or align themselves with the people that really knew what they were doing so that they could position themselves for success. They just got into the market because the market was good, because they heard that their friends were flipping property, or they had a contractor that flipped the property, made $100,000, and they say, oh, well, I want to do that too because I have some extra money. Or even worse, they said, I've got some equity in my house. Maybe I'll pull this equity out and then I'll go and I'll flip 2 properties, or I'll buy 2 investment properties. This is a long-winded way of saying that if you're going to flip property in this market, the market is saturated with investors, for number one. The market got a lot better over the past few years. And as inventory is still an issue, we still have a lack of really good inventory right now. So as inventory continues to be an issue and as prices continue to rise, all of that just means that the numbers associated with flipping property are less attractive. You have to really be diligent in finding those good deals, and you have to be incredibly disciplined about the ones that just don't fit the criteria. So I'll give you an example. When I go and I flip properties, I want a minimum of a 25% return on my investment, or a minimum of $25,000. So I'm not going to get involved in that process of flipping a home unless I can make a minimum of $25,000 or a minimum of a 25% return on my investment. To me, it does not make sense to risk that amount of cash for anything less than that sort of a return on my investment. I'm not interested in making 10% of my money by risking a huge amount of cash to make a 10% return. I could go and I could buy stock at a much lower price and gamble with that money, but I'm hardly in the stock market because I understand real estate and I understand what differentiates a good deal from a potential money pit that's not going to result in the return on investment I want. So the bottom line is that the deals are still out there, but you have to run a lean and mean operation in order to maximize your return on investment in today's market. There is no lollygagging around. You have to get your plan in place, know your numbers, know your market, put people to work immediately, and get the job done and move on to the next one. You're just making less money per flip right now. So what you have to do is you have to be more efficient with your time, and you have to flip more properties to make the same amount of money as if you were in, let's say, 2011, 2012, some parts of 2013. So Hope that makes sense. Andrew, when I flip properties and when I purchase investment properties and we get insurance on those properties, talk to the listeners about the different types of insurance you need in order to protect them while they're going through that process.
Sure. So when you're actually say that you purchased a house or a vacant lot or whatever it might be, you're just going to get your basic vacant dwelling policy. It's called a vacant dwelling. When you start actually doing the work, so if you begin immediately, you're going to need a builder's risk policy.
Okay.
And so that's going to protect you.
Me, the homeowner.
You, the homeowner. As well, it's going to cover the actual building itself, but it's also going to protect you from a liability standpoint. So if you have people working on that property and somebody gets injured or somebody tries to come after you for whatever it might be, you want to make sure you're protected. So it's going to protect the actual structure as well as your liability.
Right. So let's just use an example. Let's say that I'm flipping a house and it's worth $100,000. And I've got someone that's putting on a new roof and they fall off the roof and they break their back and they come and they sue me. I would imagine that a builder's risk policy obviously is only good up to a certain extent in terms of coverage for me in the event someone sues me. So how does that tie into, let's say, an umbrella policy? And this is a really important question, I think. And for anybody listening that owns investment properties or they have a high-valued home, I really would like for them to pay attention to this. And if they have questions, call into the studio, 843-556-1250. But to reiterate the question, someone falls off a roof and they want to sue me, and this is a $100,000 property, not too expensive. How do I cover myself and make sure that I'm not going to be at risk at, coming to the table with a huge cash settlement or something like that?
Well, certainly every person that you have work on your property, you want to make sure that they're properly insured themselves. So if you hire a contractor to come out to paint, to put up drywall, to do whatever it might be, work on the roof, you want to verify that they have general liability insurance and as well as workers' comp. So their policies can respond in the event of somebody getting injured or protecting them. And so you can go back after them if they are at fault for a loss. So if they're working on your property, they're putting on a roof and turns out that roof's got a leak in it, well, you want to be able to make sure that you can go after them for their workmanship. So you want to make sure that they're properly insured. But certainly, so many people don't really ask that question or don't make sure that these people are insured. A lot of times they might ask, and the contractor's going to say, yeah, we have insurance, but they never actually produce anything. So I would certainly ask to produce what's called a certificate of insurance to prove that they do have coverage. But they do, as the homeowner, as that investor, as part of that builder's risk policy that you're purchasing, you want to make sure it has the liability coverage. Typically, there's $500,000 of liability coverage built into it. So that's going to protect you there. But as a overall risk, you want to have a personal umbrella policy in place that sits over your homes, your autos, as additional layers of liability coverage should somebody try to come after you and sue you.
Okay, very good. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to take another break. We do have Andrew Muller in the studio as well as me. And if you have any questions, call the studio here, 843-556-1250. That's the number here. And stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
More stimulating talk on real estate matters with Brian Beatty next on 1250 WTMA.
1250 WTMA.
Expert news and views on the Lowcountry real estate scene. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Thanks again for tuning in as we talk about all things real estate here on this program. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, we are in the studio, and we invite you to give us a call. The number here is 843-556-1250, and I'm joined by Andrew Muller of Mappus Insurance. So we'd like to answer your questions real estate related. Again, the number here, 843-556-1250. If you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, then I'd invite you to go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. And on that website, you can take a look at everything I have for sale and have sold. You can search the MLS. And we're going to talk now about selling your house. And if you have a question about selling your house, click on the Sell Your Home tab. You can learn more about what I do to market my properties for sale. You can also learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee, which very simply states that I will sell your house in 59 days or less, or I'll sell it for half my commission. So listingsincharleston.com is the website for that. So I want to talk now about hiring an agent that knows how to get the job done when selling your house. And this segment stems from an email that I received. And so I want to just kind of read bits and pieces of the email. I kind of reformatted it so that, whatever. The email goes something like this. I've been a for sale by owner. Then I went to a flat fee on the MLS where I paid someone $500 to have the exposure on the MLS, but I was still a for sale by owner. And then I hired a discount broker, and my home still isn't sold. The agent I most recently hired told me that I could sell my house for my listing price, and when an offer was made that was below that amount, and I countered it, my agent said that I wasn't being aggressive enough, and then vanished into thin air after the deal didn't go through. I need to hire someone that knows how to sell real estate and can get the job done for me. It's been almost 2 years, and I'm tired of playing games. What do I need to look for in an agent to sell my house? I plan on starting the interview process next week. And this is somebody that lives in Florida. They don't live in our area, but they were driving through and they heard the radio show. And so it stemmed some questions that she emailed to me. And so the first thing I want to say about that is that I think you've kind of learned that selling your house for sale by owner is not an easy task. And that although we are in a seller's market, it's not like you can just put a sign in the yard and your home is going to sell. It's not that easy. Unfortunately, it's never that easy unless you've priced your home basically below what it's worth. Buyers that are looking at homes are educated. And it doesn't matter if they're looking at a house that's represented by a real estate agent or if they're looking at a house that's a for sale by owner. At the end of the day, they know what they want to pay. The majority of them are represented by real estate agents, and they're going to tell that buyer what a good deal is versus what the house is actually worth. And your house is either valuable to that buyer or it isn't. So the fact that you're a for sale by owner or that you've hired a discount broker or you hire an agent that's the best agent in the universe, it's not as easy as just putting a sign in the yard and then waiting for the buyers to show up at your door. And I hate to break that news to you. I'm sure agents would like to say that, hey, all we need to do is put it on the MLS and put a sign in the yard and we're going to get calls and we're going to get showings and we're going to sell it. Sometimes that's the case. Sometimes it's not.
There's actually a house in our neighborhood that was about 8 months ago for sale by owner. And now I've noticed that they've moved to a real estate agent. So obviously they couldn't get it done.
Right. Well, and then I think that to kind of further pick apart this email, she hired a discount broker. And again, she lives in Florida, so that doesn't matter what I say because I'm not offending agents in our market. And it's not my goal to offend agents, but she hired a discount broker. That agent said, hey, yeah, we can sell it for your listing price if you list with me. And then when she got an offer that was below the listing price, that agent pushed the seller to try and accept a lower offer than what was probably fair. And then when she disagreed, because he basically went back on his word, he basically vanished. He's like, all right, well, forget it. If you're not going to sell your house, then whatever. I'm out of here. So it was clear that discount broker is kind of the epitome of what we try to avoid in our industry, in that sometimes real estate agents will tell sellers what they want to hear to get the business, to get the sign in the yard, and to hope that it's an easy sale. And when it isn't, that's when the true colors of a real estate agent comes out. That's when they display their value to the general public. So I thought that I'd give some advice here in terms of what I would look for if I were selling my house and I had to hire an agent. Let's say that I had a second home in Florida and I don't sell real estate in Florida and I needed to put my house on the market. What am I going to look for in that agent? And you have to understand that from my perspective, I'm probably going to be a tough client because I'm going to have expectations that I know are both realistic, but that are also indicative of somebody that should be running a very efficient and successful business. So number one, I would want somebody that's straightforward, honest, trustworthy, someone with integrity. I need to be able to trust this person to have my best interests in mind. And when they represent me and talk about my house to the general public, I need to make sure that I'm protected. There's the classic example of this discount broker of basically cutting their commission so that they could get an easy sale. When an offer was made, they tried to convince the seller to take less than what they probably should have. I would imagine that behind closed doors, that listing agent and the other buyer agent were saying, hey, if you just offer this, I bet I can get her to take that. That's like the classic fear that I think sellers have, is that agents are just in it for the commission, and they're going to say whatever they need to say to get the house sold and then move on to the next one. But the good agents are the ones that protect their clients and their confidentiality so that they can maintain a good posture when it comes to negotiating, and they can sell it for the highest price possible. Again, we're talking about what I would do if I hired a real estate agent. If you have questions, insurance related, real estate related at all, give us a call. We're in the studio, 843-556-1250. So the second thing I would look for if I were hiring an agent to sell a house of mine is I want a full-time, full-service real estate agent with a support staff so that they can focus on selling my house. And if they have a team and they run an efficient business, even better. I want the agent that I hire to be focused on selling my house. And so when I look at my own team and the way that I run my business, I don't have to wear every single hat associated with the real estate industry. I don't have to put on one hat and do a bunch of paperwork, and then put on another hat and go out and show properties on weekend, and then put on another hat and negotiate a contract, put on another hat and train and educate and lean trade, motivate my team. There's a lot that goes on when it comes to selling real estate. My goal when I wake up in the morning is to help my sellers sell their house. And that's basically it. I have a team that does the majority of everything else in this business. And it allows me to stay incredibly focused for the sake of my clients. So that's what I would expect out of my listing agent. Number 3, they need to be selling houses. They need to be doing business, not just a few deals a year. I want somebody that is out there selling multiple homes a month. And the reason I want that is because they're the ones that have a good pulse on the market. They're the ones that can weigh in on trends and can advise me on what my expectations should be and what's reasonable versus what's unreasonable. I want guidance. I want someone to tell me the truth. And if my price is too high, or if I'm being an unrealistic seller, quite honestly, I want my agent to have the guts to tell me. And that's something that not a lot of agents do for fear of losing the business. So I think that's really important. Number 4, they need to be able to present my home in a professional way, and they need to understand what they're paying for as it relates to marketing and why. They need to have a good understanding of when they market my house, this is what buyers want, this is how they're going to get buyers to respond, this is where buyers are looking, and then once buyers contact my agent about my property, my agent needs to be able to speak intelligently about my house, about the area, about the market, answer their questions, sell them on the unique values of my house, and do everything they can to convert that quote-unquote online shopper into a potential showing appointment and possibly an offer. That's the job of a listing agent, is to market the home and to make that buyer understand that the house that they've inquired about could be the one for them, and here's why. Sell the benefits, not the features. Number 5, I want someone that can effectively price a house. There is no excuse in my mind for someone that doesn't know what's going on in a market and that cannot come up with a price that will sell that house. And in my mind, that house needs to be sold in 60 days or less. I don't have any interest in waiting 6 months to sell a house. When I'm ready to sell a house, I'm ready to sell a house. I don't want to have to go through the process of making my bed and sweeping my floors and maintaining my house in show-ready condition, which is a full-time job in and of itself, for 6 months. If we're going to sell it, let's sell it. Tell me what it's worth. Let's price it as close to that as possible. Let's get the job done. That's my position if I'm a seller. Now, at the same time, if my agent tells me, hey, we are in such a seller's market right now in your specific area that we can afford to push that price a little bit. Prices are rising in this area, so why don't you take that price and increase it another 3%? And I'd be willing to bet that you'll still get the same amount of showing traffic and you might be able to sell it for a little bit more money. Is that of interest to you? I would say yes, as long as we're getting the traffic and we're not shooting ourselves in the foot. And then I would say that one of the last things is that they need to be passionate about what they do. They need to enjoy their work, because when people enjoy their work, you know what happens? They're a pleasure to deal with. And when they're a pleasure to deal with, you know that they play nicely with others. And guess what? There's one of me and thousands of other real estate agents. And if I, as a real estate agent, have a bad reputation, or if I'm one of those agents that people kind of cringe when they see my name come across on their phone or their email as being someone that's just difficult to get along with, that's going to impact the way in which the property is sold. Because at the end of the day, we all have to play together in the same sandbox. And the mean kids are the ones that are playing by themselves in the corner that can't rely on the relationships that they've formed to help. I hope that makes sense. And then one of the last things is that someone that knows how to negotiate. You know, selling real estate's like playing poker. You don't show the other people your hand. So I want someone that can maintain my confidentiality and not sacrifice my equity so that they can make a quick sale. That is, to me, one of the most important things, and I see it happen all the time in this industry. Agents telling other agents things they shouldn't about their sellers or their buyers so that they can get a deal to the table. That, in my mind, is totally unacceptable, and that's one of the things that I've built my business on. So when we come back, what I want to talk about even further is the difference between marketing and advertising. And Andrew, you can weigh in on this. All that when we come back here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Again, give us a call in the studio, 843-556-1250, or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. We'll be right back.
Have a real estate question? Ask Brian Beatty. Send him an email, lowcountryhomesales@gmail.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show is on 1250 WTMA.
WTMA.
Now, here's more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston. Thanks again for tuning in this morning as we talk about all things real estate here on the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Really appreciate you tuning in, and I really appreciate those of you that call me on a consistent basis that say that you're interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate. And I just really appreciate you tuning in and listening to what I have to say, as interesting or non-interesting as you may believe it to be. If you have any real estate questions, we're in the studio here for a few more minutes. The number here is 843-556-1250. And if you're thinking about reaching out to me, go to listingsincharleston.com and you can contact me there. You can learn more about what I do to market my properties for sale. And that's what we're going to talk about now, is we're going to talk about the difference between marketing and advertising. And so to kind of finish out this show, we've been talking a lot about what's important to me if I were to sell a property in a different market that I don't sell real estate in. What am I going to look for when I hire an agent? And Andrew and I had a really good conversation off air just now about some properties that he has sold and some of his different experiences with different kinds of real estate agents. He's hired single agents. He's hired agents that run teams. And I just want to make a quick point on that before I go into marketing or advertising and the difference between the two. And that is that some agents that do everything themselves are really good at what they do. And the more business they do, the busier they become. They only have so much time in a day. So for the single agents out there that do really well, good for them. I mean, they're keeping the majority of their money, but they are so busy that they're sacrificing their personal lives. On the other hand, you have people that run teams. Some teams are run very well. They are run like a business. I would say that I pride myself in my ability to run an effective and efficient business that serves our clients' needs. But then you have some people that are just inherently lazy, so they get their business leverage. They hire an assistant and they hire other people to do the jobs they don't want to do, and then they're still lazy. They still provide poor customer service, and it's kind of rough when you're a seller and you've hired this person and they promise the moon, and you think that they have the ability to sell your house based on all the things they said they do, but then they fall short, and the simple things like communication and customer service just aren't there. What I want to talk about is the difference between marketing and advertising. And Andrew, you and I are in the same basic kind of industry in that we essentially have two jobs, you and I. I'm in the business of helping people buy, sell, and invest in real estate, just like you are in the business of helping people place insurance on their properties, cars, whatever. Mm-hmm. But then we are also in the business of finding people to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, or finding people that need insurance in whatever form or fashion. So we're in two industries. We are in the industry that we work in, and then we are in the business of lead generation. And I think that you could agree that the people that are at the top of their class in whatever industry they're in is based on their ability to find people that need the services that they're selling and that they're the experts in.
Absolutely.
Having said that, I could pay for all the marketing in the world, but if I'm a bad real estate agent, if I don't provide good customer service, if I don't communicate with my client base, if I don't do the things that I say I'm going to do, then that's going to get out very quickly because reputation is everything, especially in a small town like Charleston. Mm-hmm. But what I want to talk about is the difference between marketing and advertising. So let's just kind of define the two really quickly. Marketing refers to the process of preparing your product for the marketplace. It involves understanding who your clients are, and how to position your product, things like, colors, logo, preparing a property for sale, other design elements, so on and so forth. That's how you align your product with the interests of your target audience, right? It's marketing basically that defines your brand and attracts the market share you want. Advertising is the process of making your product or service known to the marketplace. So it's what you do to promote your product or service to the marketplace. And it essentially spreads the word about what you have to offer. So essentially, advertising is how you communicate the existence of your product to your marketplace. So as that relates to real estate, some agents, quite frankly, just can't afford advertising on a large scale. In fact, I would say that most real estate agents can't or don't advertise themselves or their properties because they don't have the ability to pay for those out-of-pocket expenses. They just rely on what their company provides them with, usually at a pretty high cost to that agent. We call that commission splits. Some brokerages charge a 50-50 commission split. The agent gets half of the commission, the company gets half of the commission. Those agents likely aren't doing a lot in terms of individual marketing and advertising efforts to try and find buyers for their home or to promote themselves. Now, you've got some agents that have a budget for advertising, but they don't know what to do. They don't know how to attract buyers. They don't know how to go online and create a website or find their clients. So they pay for companies to do that for them, usually at a very high cost. The standard is somewhere between $50 and $100 per lead. That's a big expense. It's a lot. Now, of course, you have some people that understand how to advertise their properties for sale. They understand what advertising is all about. And to differentiate that even further, you have some real estate agents that advertise and promote themselves, and then you have real estate agents that advertise and promote the properties that they are selling. In my mind, you want an agent that does all three of the things that I just mentioned. They advertise themselves, they advertise their properties, and they pay for leads so that they leave no stone unturned when it comes to selling your house. And I'm very straightforward when I sit down with people and I talk about my advertising budget, because at the end of the day, when someone hires me to sell their house, I want to be able to show them and tell them the truth and that, hey, this is what I do. Here's what my company offers. Here's what I do. And when you sit down and you compare my marketing plan to the average agent's marketing plan, there's a reason why, quite honestly, I'm selling my homes in 39 days and for 98% of asking price, and I usually get the listing. It's because what I'm doing is costly, it works, and I get the job done. And I'm not here necessarily to promote myself. What I'm here to say is that when you decide to list your house with a real estate agent, you need to ask them very pointed questions about what they are going to do specifically to sell your house for you. Okay? Now, we can talk about open houses, we can talk about door knocking and flyers and calling neighbors and so on and so forth, but how are they going to find the buyer for your house? Who is the buyer for your house? Do they understand how to connect the dots? So just a very simple question that you can ask a real estate agent, and that will be very telling of their experience and their ability to hopefully get the job done for you. Andrew, how can people reach out to you if they have any insurance-related questions?
Sure. Certainly the office number, 763-4200, and then Mappusinsurance.com. And Mappus is Mappus, insurance spelled out. Be sure to check out all of the updated flood insurance that's starting April 1st.
Very good. And you can contact me at listingsincharleston.com or by calling 843-345-1273. We're out of time. Have a great weekend.
us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning from 8 till 9. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. 843-345-1273.